All right, hey eighth graders. I'm at home, obviously. This is my couch. And I'm going to be teaching you about Emily Dickinson and Because I Could Not Stop for Death via this video. So what I need you to do is to get out your notes on your poetry notes that we've been working on and look at this poem and follow along with me. This one's one that I have not done in a while, so I'm a little rusty on it, but it's pretty straightforward. Hate the whole death dying motif, but it's what a lot of poets write about because it is kind of that whole journey of life. So we're going to start at the very beginning. We're going to start with what I told you to start with before when we did the sonnet. You always look at the form of the poem first. Before you even start thinking about what it means, what it's about, think about the form, because that's the best place to get yourself started. So let's look at the rhyme. You'll notice some of the things that rhyme right away. You'll notice like me and immortality and civility. And then you notice it doesn't actually follow much rhyme at all, but then like ground and ground comes back, and then you have eternity repeated again. It's kind of random. It's kind of hit or miss. So we talked about that with another poem we did. We talked about slant rhyme, and this is scattered rhyme. It's where it's not necessarily that it's close, like they almost rhyme. It's where the rhyme is just scattered in bits and pieces here and there. Like I said, with me and immortality, civility, and eternity. Notice that the lines are broken up into chunks of 4. Remember what that's called? Anyone? Quatrain? Remember we did that with the sonnets. So now look at the length of syllables in the lines. You'll notice that they're sort of like what we noticed with iambic pentameter, except this isn't necessarily 10 syllables and like 5 iambs. So actually what you have here are 4. So you've got sets of 4. Because I could not stop for death. That's actually called iambic tetrameter. Okay, tetrameter. I know quad would make more sense because it's 4, but it's called iambic tetrameter. So it is done in quatrains, and it is definitely got a distinct meter in the slant rhyme. So now let's move on and talk about what it means. So let's read it together, and then we'll break it down pretty much by quatrain. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. We slowly drove, he knew no haste, and I had put away my labor and my leisure too for his civility. We passed the school where children strove at recess in the ring. We passed the fields of grazing grain, and we passed the setting sun. Or rather, he passed us. The dews drew quivering and chill, for only gossamer my gown, my tippet only tulle. We paused before a house that seemed a swelling in the ground. The roof was scarcely visible, the cornice in the ground. Since then, to centuries, and yet it feels shorter than the day I first surmised the horses' heads towards eternity. All right, so bear with me today. I feel like crap, and long story short, I'll catch you guys up when I get back. But I'm going to try to walk you through this poem just by the quatrains and help you kind of get a grasp for it. So let's start at the beginning. Because I could not stop for death. Notice that death is capitalized, okay? So if it's capitalized, it's being treated like a proper noun, so we can assume that it's probably being what? Personified. All right, so death is being personified here. He kindly stopped for me. You'll need to circle the word he and label that personification, and make sure you circle death and know that it's being capitalized, and that's what's being personified. He kindly stopped for me, and the carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. So we have death being personified here as a guy coming to pick her up. So guys, it's like you're going to pick up a girl on a date, or he's a suitor coming to visit her. So he's picked her up, and the carriage is whatever is pushing them forward. Okay, so we'll come back to the carriage towards the end when it makes more sense, and we went through the whole imagery here. We slowly drove, he knew no haste. So knew no haste. What does haste mean? Haste means to hurry. So they're taking their time. And I had put away my labor and my leisures too for his civility. So in other words, I'm focused only on him. We passed the school where children strove at recess in the ring. We passed the fields of grazing grain. We passed the setting sun. So now they're moving through life. They're seeing children growing up. They're seeing kids playing. They're seeing fields of grazing grain. So you're thinking of, if you can imagine that imagery, those three images, the kids in the ring or kids playing, the fields of grain, and the setting sun, are all three distinct pictures that the author's trying to, or the poet is trying to paint in your head. So you have three sets of imagery that you need to label. We passed the setting sun, or rather, he passed us. Who passed who? The sun passed them. So things are changing now. The dews drew, quivering and chill. So it's getting cold. So they've been gone a long time, and the sun's gone down. Okay? The sun's gone down, and it's getting cold. For only gossamer my gown, my tippet only tulle. Do anyone know what that means? I'm just thinking, not that you can answer me here while I'm sitting on my couch. The gown that she's wearing is gossamer. If you know anything about fabric, or ladies, if you know anything about tulle, tulle's the stuff that like tutus and stuff are made of. When I wore my gigantic prom dress my senior year, and my wedding dress too, there was like layers and layers and layers of tulle underneath it that made it go poof and stick out to forever. So tulle and gossamer are really thin fabrics. They're real light and sheer and fluffy. They're not very substantial. They're not going to keep you warm on a cold night. So she's saying, I'm not dressed for this. This is cold, we're out late, and I'm not ready. So we paused before a house that seemed a swelling in the ground. So why would a house be in the ground? All right, now remember, what's being personified at the very beginning? Death is. So where is death taking her to? The house could be symbolizing something else. The house is a symbol, and actually you put a metaphor there. It's a metaphor for a coffin. All right, we paused before a house or coffin that seemed a swelling in the ground. Now that makes sense. The roof was scarcely visible, and the cornice in the ground. The cornice is a corner. So the house is a coffin. And so she's saying, I'm not dressed for this. I wasn't ready for this. I didn't plan to be out all day. I didn't want to go out all night. We paused before the house that seemed to swelling in the ground. The roof was scarcely visible, the cornice in the ground. Since then, so we're finding out that actually time has passed by, 'tis centuries, hundreds of years ago, and yet feels shorter than the day. So even though it's been hundreds of years ago, it feels like this was just yesterday. I first surmised or saw or noticed the horses' heads were towards eternity. Okay, go back to that first stanza now. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me, kindly. So she's looking at him positively. The carriage held just ourselves and immortality. So she's jumping into this carriage with death, going on a ride, thinking that it's going to be fun, all excited. He kindly stopped for me. He's a suitor. And there's nothing there but just them and immortality. So it's got a positive feeling. And they ride through and see life. They see kids playing. They see the sun setting and the fields move, fields of grain flowing in the breeze. All that good stuff. And then it gets cold. The change in the tone happens in that fourth stanza when the dew falls. So it's getting dark. It's getting cold. And she realizes, uh-oh, I'm not dressed for this. And she realizes the sun's going down, the setting on her life, and she needs to she's dying. Okay? So the message of the poem, or the theme, is on dying. So what you'll need to do is make sure that you label those things, those symbols, because I could not stop for death, death being personified. The carriage is being whatever that thing is that's pushing them towards death. So really it's just life itself pushing them forward. She jumps into the carriage, jumps into living life along with death. They're going together. And then when the sun sets, that shifts the change to it being cold, and she realizes that she's dying and says, wait a second, I wasn't ready for this. Sorry, my iPad went to sleep and now I can't have my poem in front of me. Anyway, so the point that you need to make sure that you understand is that this thing is full of metaphors and full of personification, and that you label those examples, and make sure that you label, like what we talked about at the very beginning, the form and the style of the poem. It's iambic tetrameter. Remember, that's a little weird. Tetra means four. It's in quatrain, so you have 4 lines in each stanza, and the rhyme is slant rhyme, and it's scattered. It's not consistent, which kind of is Emily Dickinson's style. You'll need to also take some notes about Emily Dickinson's life and about her personality and her kind of her trademarks. She was a little bit of a recluse, kind of a weird chick, but you know, all the best people are a little weird. So anyway, I'm going to post a link to another video about her so that you can watch that and take some notes about her life, because you need to kind of get an idea of who your poet is in order to kind of understand why they write the way they do. If you have any questions about this poem or about the notes or about anything I discussed in this video, just send me an email. I hope to be back. Unfortunately, the doctor says I can't come back until like Thursday or Friday. Sorry, I won't be back till Friday. So sorry. I'll catch you guys up, and we'll do our best to work through this week together. So I hope you guys are behaving. Be good. Be sweet. See you later.